Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I am your host. I am Noor Kyle,
And I am her faithful sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
ever faithful. And here we are with all of you. Thank you for joining us, whether you're here live or watching on YouTube on the replay. So glad to have you with us. And it's nice to have a few wonderful people returning this week. We haven't seen them in a while. It's always a blessing to have beloved, familiar faces come through. So, if you're here and you want to support our work, we got a few ways you can do that. The easiest way is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the videos, leave comments, and of course, you can also at this time donate. We are doing a fund drive, as we like to call it right now, where we are raising funds to make sure that we can keep going and keep doing what we're doing, since this is our main source of income, doing the work that we do here. And much of it we do for free, as you see with these YouTube videos. So you can donate through the links we have below in the description. We have our Stripe, we have our PayPal, we have our Coffee, which allows you to do either Coffee, either PayPal or Stripe, and it allows you to do recurring donations. So whichever way works for you, whichever way feels right to you, we always encourage people to only give what you can spare. Never give away more than you can spare. That's not what we're about. Anything you want to add, Mushtaq?
You can, if you do overnight express, send us Turkish pastries.
Yes, we would
We
definitely
would take
appreciate
Turkish
pastries.
pastries.
So, what we're doing for this fund drive, though, is that everyone who donates, as long as we have your contact information, we're going to be doing a raffle. And whoever wins that raffle is going to get 3 free sessions with us. Usually, we charge $100 per session. This is our private work that we do with people who are interested in having more individualized support in their working on themselves, on their path, working towards awakening and deepening their awakening. So that is something that you can look forward to having the opportunity to win. And otherwise, you can join our Facebook group. I recommend you join our email list. That is one of the best ways to get in touch with us. And either of these things, the Facebook group or our email list, allow you to join us, like you're seeing here on Zoom Live, where we have all these cool folks joining in, contributing to the conversation, and making these conversations as wonderful as they are. So thank you so much for that. And anything else to add, Mushtaq?
Yeah, we have Chris and Nino has shown up.
Hola, miss you guys.
Hola!
Miss you
Been,
guys too.
been catching up on the recordings, but it's good to be here. And Francisco's happy to be here too. He's intrigued by all the interesting people here. You remember them, right?
Oh, great to see you guys, Chris. Yeah,
They're
I don't think you guys are on camera since you're muted, and we usually have just the speaker. But if you want to just give a word,
You want to say something, Francisco?
Hola, Francisco.
Oh, he's waving. You can't see. Say, you want to say hi?
He's getting
beautiful.
cuter by the day.
Say thank you. You blow a kiss? Mwah.
Awesome. Great to have
Extra
you here, Chris.
adorable.
Yeah. All right, so let's get started. This evening, we are going to be talking about Whew, something pretty large and in charge, I guess we could say. We're going to be talking about objective consciousness.
We're going to be
Where
talking
on
about it
earth
in a
should
very
we begin?
specific way tonight.
Yes.
In what way, Noor? Toss.
So, we are going to be talking about this in a very specific way, in that, as you'll see, in order to sustain humanity as we know it, we are going to have to find ways to build up and sustain our ability to hold objective consciousness, to function in a state in which we are able to operate through objective consciousness. And if we don't, as we are seeing today, every day, we are going to end up paying for it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Gurdjieff made interesting observations about something that he called the reciprocal maintenance of the universe. And the basic idea is that everything in the universe helps maintain everything else. And that includes all life on Earth, not just human life. All life on Earth has a part to play in the reciprocal maintenance of our little neck of the woods here. And basically, there are two ways that we do this. The easy way, which is to live an unconscious life and then die. The energy released through the dying goes off to pay for our rent here in this little bit of the galaxy. The other way, and this is more important, is you can give the same kind of energy, the same quality of energy, and probably a little bit more of the energy by being conscious, by being a conscious being, by being awake, by being Ensan al-Kamal, the completed human being. Just being that produces this energy, and the universe likes it. And they say that if you are producing this energy, the universe will be more inclined to keep you around, which is always a plus. Now, if you want to read about this, I would recommend you get a hold of a copy of Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. And you look on chapters, I think it's 32 and 33. Chapter 32 is entitled Hypnosis or Hypnotism, not hypnosis. If you do a search, it's hypnotism, hypnotize you. And it's a talk about specifically the idea of what he goes into Franz Anton Mesmer and his work back in the, what was it, the 18th century? Long time ago in Austria and France, where he discovered what he called animal magnetism. And he only called it that because he had no better words for what it was. And Beelzebub's descriptions of what went on with this are quite fascinating. And if you know anything about Mesmer and his life history, he was a polymath. He took doctorates in both, I think, religion, medicine, and law. I'm pulling this out of my memory, so don't take it as gospel. But he was smart. He was friends and an early patron of Mozart, interestingly enough, and had Mozart give concerts at his home. A lot of interesting things about his life. He was not just some snake oil salesman. Um, but he discovered this thing and he tried to talk about it using the language of his time. And This was a time where everybody thought that there were fluids that we couldn't see or feel or otherwise experience, but they were transmitting through the ether. Um, we now know that there were no fluids. And he used, uh, it's interesting because in his early documents, which you can get translations of, he talked about this in terms of animal gravity rather than animal magnetism. Um, but then they thought gravity had to do with some kind of fluid too. But I just found that interesting that that's how it started out and then it shifted. So the descriptions of what was going on were completely inept by today's science. But the phenomena were very interesting. Um, and we don't really have enough time to uh, delve completely into that. But Gurdjieff said that the animal magnetism thing was based on something real. He called it Hambledzoin, which was to him a fluid or energy that was analogous to blood, but was accumulated in the Kejdan body. This is all so many weird words.
Weird Gurdjieff words.
They're
Just
Gurdjieff words,
take
yeah.
it in stride.
Yep. And I have no interest in arguing the truth or falsehood of this. You can take it as metaphor. You can take it as pointing to something real that we didn't have the terms to talk about, but now we have better terms to talk about. If we had gone to the Arabic, we would have had a better way to talk about what Gurdjieff called hand Bledsoean and what Mesmer called um, what's its face animal magnetism. The Arabic word that we want is Hayawiya, which can be translated as life force or vitality or energy or um, an animating force, vigor. Where is Osama when I need him? Help me out here, Osama.
Yeah, I think it's Hayawiya.
Yes,
Hayawiya. Yeah, I had to think
unless you're
about that because
pronouncing it with my accent.
I haven't heard that in a long time. Haven't heard that term. Um, yeah, I mean, you described it perfectly.
Cool.
Hayawiya. Yeah.
And you pronounced it.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a much, much better term than anything having to do with magnetism or weird Gurdjieff words. I mean, yes, it is an Arabic word, but it is a perfect description of what we're talking about. And it is, in the understanding that I have of the word, it is more energy than anything else. It's a field. This is where it gets important. Hyawiya is a field phenomena that everybody has a little bit of if they're still breathing. Some people have more than others. And the more conscious you are, the more awake to this world you are, the more of it you tend to have. Does that make sense so far? Anybody want to argue with me?
Well, let's see if anyone has any questions right now. I see, yeah, a few people are unmuted. M had her
Oh,
hand up, and Osama has a thought as well.
Yeah, so let's start with M because I've missed her. So
I've missed all of you too, and hello to everyone. It's good to be in live space with you. I was just thinking of the word Hayawiya, and then you said the energy field. It must be connected then to Al-Hay, the name of
Yes,
Allah. So
absolutely.
life.
Yeah, that's the root of the word.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was looking
So
it up earlier in my Arabic English dictionary, and I had to start with hi to get there.
yeah, that's all. I just wanted to see that that's the connection.
Yes. So, Osama,
Yep, that's, I was gonna say what M pretty much said, describing it as maybe life force, life energy, just for that connection with Al-Hayy, the all living, possibly.
yeah, almost undoubtedly. I mean, as the scholars say, and Allah knows best, but that's our best guess. And Ian,
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. I'm more used to thinking of it as chi. Would you
yeah,
say that's exactly it?
if not exactly, pretty damn close.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're cultivating chi, you are raising your life energy. And I think that you might actually have to look at chi and jin and shen together to really get a sense of this.
That's going beyond what I know about. I'll have to make a note of those.
Yeah.
Mm.
I learned about it from reading tea bottles, so the information's there.
All right. Thanks, Ian. Thank you, Osama and M. Any other thoughts or questions so far before we move on? Okay. Okay.
So, how do you cultivate this? There are a number of different ways. Fundamentally, be awake, be present, be in the present moment. Find the eternal now, all of that mystical stuff. How do you do that? What's the first thing you do?
Be present, be aware,
And
breathe.
what is the doing? Breathe, yes. Watch your breath. Breathe consciously. Hosh dardam. That helps you be present. Now, in the chapters I referred to in Beelzebub's Tales, G, speaking as Beelzebub, talks about the two minds, which he points out are the conscious, and he called it subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is a terrible name for this. Um, this was translated from the Russian, which may be the same thing. I don't know because I don't speak Russian, but a better term is unconscious mind. So, you know what you're aware of right now? Take a moment, check around, see what you're aware of right now. That's your conscious mind. Everything else is your unconscious mind. Everything else is your unconscious mind. The totality of you, of which your conscious mind is this tiny little bit, and you are this huge bit. And the conscious mind can float around and touch different places, and the unconscious mind can inform the conscious mind, which is what we want. Now, Somebody has.
Yeah, Ian was just
Yeah.
sharing a bit of background info about, you know, how you mentioned
Yeah.
Qi
Yeah. Qi,
and
Jin, and Shen.
Jing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shen. So this is talking about the three treasures of traditional Chinese medicine for those who are interested in checking that out.
Yeah. Worth paying some attention to. I mean, they've been doing this for centuries and they're still doing it. So it might have some validity.
Mm, yeah. So, as
So
you were saying,
anyway,
Mushtaq.
when you are present to your unconscious, as well as everything else, your life energy tends to strengthen. What does that mean to be present to your unconscious? It means here I am. I am being conscious right now. You can tell because there are little birds flying around my head or something. Um, and at the same time, I open myself to the communication with the deeper, bigger part of myself. And I become the passive force, and I allow my unconscious to be the active force, which means I am in a state of receptivity and listening. And then it will tell me things that I need to know. Within a few weeks, I'm not sure exactly when, we were going to really delve into this idea of being able to hook into the deep unconscious as uh, a life-enhancing quality. Uh, it involves what scientists are now calling the default state network. Um, Very interesting stuff. But it's basically allowing your unconscious to be an active participant in your life, as opposed to just sitting back there and being ignored.
It's all you. It's
Yes.
just a matter of where the spotlight is falling.
Yeah.
And we tend to think of whatever is falling into the ring of the spotlight to be who we are.
Yeah. So
Um,
your left foot is you. Before I said that, you might have not even noticed that you had a left foot.
Mm.
And from time to time, the left foot will inform you of things, whether you want to know it or not. Like, ow, that hurts. This shoe is too damn tight, or whatever. And you can allow yourself to be aware of the fact that it exists and is communicating with you. And so then when you walk, you get all manner of wonderful feedback from your walking. That may not make sense yet, but it can.
Did someone have a thought a minute ago?
Well, uh, Mustang mentioned something like folk state network.
Default state
Oh,
network.
default state.
Default state, yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
And we will be revisiting that topic, but I'm glad that we are not rushing into it so that we can flesh it out and make it you know, a thoughtful discussion. All right. Alka says, it's the best explanation of conscious and unconscious mind I have ever experienced. Thank you so much. I can already feel the entire existence. I don't need Turkish pastry to be high anymore. Cancel delivery of my Turkish pastry.
Oh,
What? No, I still want mine. Yeah, I'm glad that that explanation has made it clear, at least for you, Alka.
yeah. Every
Yeah,
now and again, it's good to know that what you said made sense to somebody.
we're not just, 100% of the time just babbling nonsense. Yeah.
Yep. Now, here's the thing. If you have raised your life energy, if you are present in the present moment, if you are being a conscious being, you, this is metaphor, but it seems like it to me, it is as if you have greater gravity. And that means space will do this around you. You've seen those pictures of dropping a ball on the rubber sheet and it goes down, and that represents gravity and everything tends to pull into it. You will have a quality like that for the people around you.
Very interesting, Mustaq,
Yeah, pay
because,
attention to this, Alka. This is for you.
seriously, like my body hurts like anything, but the moment, like I didn't have words for what I was doing. So, like, that's why it made sense to me, what you just said. Because the moment I do that, it's suddenly like my body has this special force. It doesn't hurt. But I didn't realize that it can expand to like people getting attracted. But for me, it literally is saving me. Like it's that powerful for me. So thank you. Now I will do this consciously. I think I have a teacher who saves me, but this is amazing. You
Yeah,
thank you.
everybody
Thank you.
saves
Now I'll
themselves.
do this again.
If I could save everybody, I would, but I can't. You got to save yourself.
Mm.
It's like the old
Thank
hymn says, you got to walk that lonesome valley. Got to walk it all by yourself. Nobody can walk it for you. Got to walk
you.
it by yourself.
I don't know this song.
It's
Okay.
an old Appalachian hymn.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? You were discussing this idea of it's almost like an influence, right?
Yes, it is influence.
Yes. And I was thinking we see this every day when we perhaps act in a certain way, and it seems to give others permission unconsciously or consciously. What I mean by that is knowingly or unknowingly, it gives them permission to follow suit in some way.
Yes. Now, there's a problem because there is so little consciousness in the world right now. We are rapidly degenerating into the lowest level possible, which is to say, complete mechanical action, somnambulism. We see it in our politics. Here in America, half of America thinks the other half are dangerous lunatics without evidence. The other half think the first half are dangerous lunatics without evidence, oftentimes. I mean, yeah, you can follow suit with whatever lines of propaganda you want for either side. And you will know that the other side is terrible, evil, no good, very bad, and should probably be killed. But none of that is ever the truth. And we have to remember that. And the universe is arranging this so that lots and lots of people can die. I want to be very clear about this. If Gurdjieff was right about reciprocal maintenance, the universe is arranging for us to have a massive die-off because that's the only way it gets the energy that it needs because there ain't enough awake people left anymore. And again, this might all be metaphor. I don't know. But Chris says 96, no, and that's exactly right.
Yeah, he's referring to the last
Yeah, Gurdjieff's ray of creation, where
Yeah,
96 is like you get anything below 96 and you're a chunk of sandstone. You're just sedimented.
yeah, yeah. And not what we all would have knowingly aspired to,
Nope.
but it seems to be what we are falling into.
Yeah. So if you can stay awake, be conscious, cultivate this life force that we're talking about, you will create a gravity around yourself and you will make it easier for people around you to experience moments of awakening. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to preach at anybody. You don't have to try and change them, anything like that. That sounds weird, but I tell you for sure it's true.
So,
Osama says something important here, Noor.
yes, and then RM has a question. So
Yes.
I will read Osama's quote. Osama says, and this is a remark from the late great James Baldwin, who said, love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really, it is held together by the love and the passion of a very few people.
That's that's exactly it. And RM asks, is the map of consciousness by David Hawkins an example? And I have to say, I don't know. I don't know what his map of consciousness is. I'll check it out and get back to you on that.
Making a note,
Making a note.
David Hawkins.
I just feel love and people. It's almost like when I hear that, it's like we have become so people centric. When we say love, and the way I'm hearing from you, Mustaq, is love for the entire existence.
Yeah,
Why just limit it to people? I think that's the problem we're all having. We've
yeah.
become so people centric.
And
We've
people are
lost
not
our
particularly
mind.
easy to love. It's much easier to love a kitten or a puppy or a baby.
Everybody loves
Yeah,
everybody. If you're not in your way, it's just the problem is that I'm sorry. I have I've started having issues with people saying love now. I'm like, no, love everybody, not just people. Sorry, but that's how I feel.
sometimes it's hard to love a stink bug, though, especially when that stink bug somehow gets into your bedroom and then gets upset.
Oh, I understand that. That's when you get tested, but at
Yes,
the same time, just I want to expand my love to everything,
good.
not just to people.
So the first step to that is stop being upset.
Well, yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Touche.
stop being upset. It only gets in your
Touche.
way.
Yes, sir.
If you want to do this work, then you just be a beacon of love. And that
You know,
doesn't mean be a beacon of soppy emotion. Love
you
is
know,
connection. Love is
yeah,
radiance. We talked about this.
yes, yeah, you're right. It reminds me of a story when I came to India to be on this path, and I was telling my mother, I can't live with family. I'm not used to of living with family. So I can't live with family. I will have my own place and blah, blah, blah. And my mother answered so simply, She said, "Do you understand what is one rule of being on this path? One rule of being on this path is you lose the right to complain."
And that is the hardest thing of all.
So true. So true. And I just failed, but thank you for reminding me.
You didn't fail, you just got a little feedback. You don't fail until you're dead. Until you're dead, it's just feedback. It's just here's how you refine it.
Yeah, got it. Awesome. Thank you.
So I'm not going to tell you again practices to do to wake up, to be present. We have talked ourselves blue in the face for the last 6 years, giving you these things. So you can go back and you can find specific practices that will work for you to be awake. I am going to tell you that if you can be awake, if you can be present in this moment, in this body, if you can be aware of your breath and be willing to be receptive to your own unconscious mind, you will develop energy for your own work. And you will become a beacon. As I said in the description, it's an anchor point. You don't have to do anything other than be and act from that being.
That's enough.
That's enough.
That's more than enough. That is something desperately needed.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be a member of the nine-sided circle. I mean, we like it if you are most of the time. You don't have to send us money, though we're happy when you do. All you have to do is be. Be this. Be the awake person. We are short on awake people. The more awake people we have, the better the planet is. And I'm totally convinced that this is the case. All evidence leads me to conclude that this is true. Being awake is hard, though. It is so much easier to be asleep. It is so much easier to just let everything go by, to let your emotions be knocked around, to hate the other guy, to be lost in your fantasies, all of that kind of stuff. It's hard being awake. It requires work. That's why we call it the work. Yes, M,
Is
tell us things.
is this why there is such an awakening movement happening at the moment, where so many people are, coming up as being teachers to awake people up and enlighten people, and all the self-help and the self-development movement that's happening now, all the new age enlightenment thing, it seems to be like popcorn at the moment.
Yeah. So
With
here's the
everyone
thing, and I hate
this
to say
be
this.
related to this?
Say again?
Could this be related to this, that the universe is kind of shaking and people, I mean, consciously or unconsciously, in the right path with the right knowledge or
It's
not?
actually the reverse of that in most cases.
Yeah.
There are people who are doing this work, not just us, there are other people, and they're doing it from a number of different perspectives. We have our friend Arden, who, I mean, she's a magical person. She has a totally different way of doing things, and it's the same thing. And she's not a cult leader. She could be. She could totally be a cult leader and make millions of dollars, but she has chosen not to do that. Most of these people are offering spiritual heroin,
Mm.
as far as I'm concerned. We have things around here. We got Mine Valley down the road and all of that. It's ways to spend lots of money and get nothing but a little catharsis every now and again and get hooked into doing this stuff. You
And
can spend your life savings doing this crap and you don't need to.
here's the thing, too. I think that it's possible people can come to this kind of work or, this kind of uh I'm gonna say ambition, but I don't necessarily mean that in like a financial sort of way. An ambition to help. They can come to that through earnestness. But it's almost like along the way they start getting high on their own supply.
Yeah, it is intoxicating to be the teacher.
And not only that, it's like they missed the mark, but they believe they've hit it and they keep going that way.
Yep, as James says, fantasy work. There's two places to check that out. One is a book called Halfway Up the Mountain, and the other is a book called Self-Completion, which has a whole chapter on the fantasy work. Robert Durop, Self-Completion. And God, I forgot her name.
I'll look it up. M has more thoughts to share.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, I'm quite aware and can identify the that spiritual high and the offerings of it, and most with good intention, some with ill intention, for invested gains, whatever. But most of them are with good intention. People get into that spiritual high themselves and they want to bring everyone into it in some way or form. And then, exactly like you said, they start to write on their own BS. What I'm kind of finding it hard is those that are seeking and being attracted to this, getting caught up in their whirlpool for a while, and then being sucked out of their energy until they fall onto a group who's willing to look at the hard truths in that objective more way, and then asking these questions. And how do you tell people? Because then you fall into the very thing you don't want to, by being judgmental or opinionated or complaining about others. So,
Yeah, and the answer is you don't tell people. You just don't. What you do
what
instead
about
is that you be that beacon. You be awake. You be the person that has created this magnetic field that draws people to you. And people like that will be some of the ones who come. And then if you tell them something, they'll be likely to listen if they ask. But this is the hardest thing in the world, to not go, look, you're an idiot. What you're doing is stupid and it's going to hurt you. Stop it. And they won't. No matter how hard you tell. It's like no matter how hard you hit somebody in the face, they don't ever get any smarter. It's true. Yes, Mariana Kaplan, Eyes yeah, Eyes Wide Open is a good one, and Halfway Up the Mountain. Halfway Up the Mountain is a brilliant little piece of work.
Yep. Alka says, I agree with being a beacon. We can only lead by example.
Yeah,
And I would even, I mean, it may end up in practice being a form of leadership, but I would even say don't get hung up on the leadership part. Just do the work of being a beacon. The leadership comes naturally from that.
Yeah. And Mariana, she was a student of an actual enlightened person. And I knew her teacher. And her teacher was really good buddies with our teacher. Anytime he was in California, he would come over and hang out with Sheikh, and they would have a great time. And that's how I originally met her. So she comes from a good pedigree, and she's very smart, and worth uh, listening to about these things. Yeah, she will give you food for thought.
Yeah. James also mentioned the guru question by Kaplan. That's
Yep.
another good one. So
Yeah. All of these things, they're all
all
good.
of these things, yeah. And RM says Rumi has a quote. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself.
Yes. And that,
That's kind of what I was getting at.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
Any
have
other thoughts? Yeah, please.
go at this? I was contemplating how in the Quran there's a lot of verses about contemplating, thinking, objectively viewing, and reflecting, and inviting us to do that. When I read this conscious awake state in your blurb for this video, it reminded me of how the Quran doesn't invite anyone to, and what are you feeling right now? Or, what's the feeling? There's no invitation to an emotion, but there's lots of invitation to objective reflecting and thinking. So whereas most of these new age schools seem to be more focused on the emotion rather than the objective truths of any matter, it's more to what you're feeling about things. And maybe that's a way to also differentiate, because conscious awakeness is about being grounded. That gravity that you're speaking of made me think of being more grounded rather than being all floating and, spaced out. That true consciousness is being in your body, grounded, awake. Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, I think, and I wanted to put it out there.
Osama, talk to us.
Yeah, I wanted to also highlight what M just mentioned. I think the uh, it's just a language barrier or issue for that the intellect in the Quran or in the Islamic thought is held in the heart. The heart is the intellect or the seat of intellect. So um, maybe that's why we're saying, now people use the word feeling. I think it's just pointing towards the heart rather than the analytical mind only. So I just wanted to mention that when it does mention, do they not contemplate? It's mentioning the heart in that same in that same sentence. So it's something something to think about also.
Yes, yes, need to be mindful of that. The heart's brain, rather than the persona, emotional yeah, feeling kind of thing that happens in the persona's brain. It's the true heart's intellect. Thank you.
Thank you for that, both of you. I was going to suggest as well that we are not working to alienate ourselves from our emotional sides. It's just a matter of what is, how do I want to phrase this? We often talk about not getting caught up in stories. Stories pull us to the past and to the future, and we are talking about really embracing the now. And it is true that a lot of the conflicts that we experience within gather their strength through our focus on the past and the future. So we tend to experience less drama when we can really tune into the now and what is true in this moment. And I think for some people that can feel like, well, don't my feelings matter? I think it's important to focus on not cutting anything away, but getting to know what it feels like to be truly present and not caught up in stories. And I think we may often be surprised at what is actually true in the now, as opposed to what we believe is true. So that's, yeah, Osama, yes.
Yeah. Um, Thank you for that. Quick question.
Sure.
So, when you have, let's say, um, traditions, religions, philosophical traditions, wisdom tradition, whatever, all these things, and they rally people on a shared vision and an idea of success, whatever success looks like, right? So I don't know, but like most religions would have, in an ideal world, the world would look like this. Um, Muslims would have a view, Christians probably have a view, Jewish, Buddhism, Hindu, whatever, all of these different, would have a view of what an success means to them. In the line of quote unquote the work, in the line of mystical traditions, what is what does success looks like? What does a successful world look like? Um, and is it necessary? Is there is it necessary to have a unified vision of what a successful world looks like?
Okay, all I can give you is opinion. In my opinion, no, it's not necessary to have a unified vision of success. It's not necessary for us to have success in consciousness. The world can exist completely mechanically. It ain't going to be a lot of fun. Look around you, it's what it looks like. This is what a mechanical world looks like. It looks like bombing babies and calling it freedom. It looks like, oh, I like this piece of land, so I'm going to get my country to go over and take it just because I can. It looks like all of these things. And we can have that. there's no reason not to just have that world. And if we as a species say, this is what we want, the universe will go, yeah, you can have it. And we also have the choice to be awake. Now, there's an interesting thing that I do want to bring up. There are some people who will be absolutely infuriated by being in the presence of an awake person, to the point where they are willing to do actual violence towards them. And not that many of them, but there's enough. And so anybody who's working on their own awakening needs to bear in mind that a certain amount of uh, caution is required. Otherwise, you end up like Halaj. And that's no fun.
That's very interesting. Why, Mustaq?
Don't know.
Well, Gurdjieff talked about that. And I mean, you can also look back to Christ and then to all the Christian martyrs as examples of that happening.
Yeah. I'm minded of Good Omens, where Crowley and his angel buddy are at Golgotha, and Crowley says to Esmenadel, "What did he do?" And he replies, "He told everybody to be nice to each other." And Crowley goes, "Who is the demon? Yeah, that'll do it." So
I think there's a chafing factor, a going against the grain factor, where it's like inertia. Things want to continue as they are, or things
yeah,
tend to continue as they are. And when there is, a person or a group or whoever pivots from that, there's such resistance there.
yeah. And we could spend the next 3 hours talking about why that is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we
Um,
don't have the time because I'm going to get hungry and
Same. I just want to throw out there, I read something about empathy. Uh, I'm not sure how they were defining that term in this particular research, but they were describing how in an environment where empathy is a valued, something that is held in high esteem, something that is encouraged and inculcated, it is easier for people to be empathic, to practice empathy in an environment where empathy is encouraged and valued and striven for. And again, that's a case where inertia, like the inertia of empathy being a norm, allows empathy to continue. So, in an environment where a lack of empathy is the norm and a lack of empathy is encouraged, that will continue.
so James had an important thing here.
Yeah, so we have some things in the chat that we can touch on. James says, if in reciprocal maintenance, a species destroys another species before its natural time, and consequently has to take on the energetic burden of the destroyed species, wouldn't the destroying species then be subject to a further drag on its ability to produce objective consciousness?
And the answer is yes.
Yes.
This is the problem. We
Yeah.
as human beings tend to like to wipe out species.
hmm Ian said
When
that's a
we
very
do,
interesting question, James. And James added, it just seems like that would generate some kind of accelerating downward spiral.
and you would be right.
I wish I wasn't right.
Yeah, so do I. And yet it is. Doesn't mean that we're doomed, but it does mean that we have to really step up because we can take over the energy of a species by being conscious. We don't have to die to do it.
Mm.
We can pay that toll through our own awakening. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah.
Or we get harvested big time.
Yeah. And we're looking at that now.
Yeah.
Remember, the last Civil War killed a huge amount of the population of the United States, and we're about 4 inches from the next one.
Mm.
And Osama said, redefining success according to the Quran, Surah Asar. Can you say more about that, Osama?
No, this was from
Oh, that was
RM.
RM.
Ah,
She was saying gratitude to Osama for asking his question. And yeah, talking about uh, you know, from the Islamic perspective, the prophet, our prophet, was the most awake human being and he faced violence. One example was in Taif.
yep.
Wait, I wanted to um I just want to make sure whatever I said earlier was understood. I did not mean redefine it according to. Probably the contrary of that. Redefining the Quranic success, possibly. Um, I just want to make sure it wasn't misunderstood that that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying, Osama. Yeah, I do think that your question about, is the goal some kind of success? Is that the goal? Like, what kind of utopia are we aiming for? And I actually think it's a bit paradoxical in that no, we are not striving to force anything, but in just the natural way of shifting ourselves and incidentally influencing others through that shifting ourselves, there is the possibility that there can be some kind of critical mass where a greater change naturally comes into being. And I think that's kind of an undercurrent for me in this is that it is very much about it has a bit of this Taoist quality to it in that kernel of trying to tap into the natural flow of things as opposed to controlling and suffocating, which is how we end up where we've ended up.
Mm.
Yeah, as Nancy says, nature loves variety, people love conformity.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes, and RM responds to Osama saying, "Thank you for clarifying. I need to contemplate on it for myself, as do we all. You know, are we hungry for utopia? Are we perhaps instead willing to embrace being part of this giant circle of life, so to speak, where we get to participate consciously in the reciprocal maintenance of this universe in which we're a part? Because we're going to be participating either way. We don't have a choice in that. We do have a degree of choice in how we experience that playing out.
Mm. Mm. I don't know if this has got anything to do with it, but I want to understand this deeply, or better. Has this got anything to do with it, in that many prophets and messengers came into this world but didn't even have any followers, but they were like, the Quran tells us about these people. We're mentioned, 20 odd in number, in name, but we're told that so many came. And I read inside Nursi's book, actually, where he says many prophets came and messengers came, enlightened people that didn't have even one person listening to them. So it's really not about an outcome of what it's going to look like in the greater wide, in the outward, but it's about that position of choosing to be, or working towards to be, an awakened one on this earth. As there is a connection in how it continues to play out its life force. I don't know if I was able to put it into words, but yeah, lots of things are racing in my mind about this conversation.
Good.
I like how you brought to mind this idea of there being unmentioned people who have left their mark on this world.
More unmentioned than mentioned when it
Yeah,
comes to it.
people whose names we will never ever know, and whose presence we have likely deeply benefited from in some way.
Yeah, and we find this mentioned in the Torah as well as the Quran. They talk about even the conclave of prophets, where there was more than one prophet. They were getting together, they were hanging out, and they were both men and women.
Mashallah.
Yeah, that was back in the day. We don't get to do that anymore, but we can still hang out and have fun.
Yeah. Ian.
Yeah, I've had a couple of thoughts sort of spinning around my mind here. One is from Robert Anton Wilson's wonderful book Illuminatus, where there are two characters. There's Malaclips the Elder and Malaclips the Younger. And if I remember correctly, because it's decades since I read it, Malaclips the Younger was active in trying to um, help keep the world on a good path, or at least resisting the forces of Greyface. Malaclips the Elder kind of fascinates me a little bit, because he just, from what I remember, just sat back and was.
Yep, kind of a Taoist.
Yeah. And I've been wondering where I would like to be in that polarity. Um, the other one that just also sprang to mind is the story of the Gita, where Arjun is given the choice of having Krishna as his charioteer, or having Krishna give him a whole bunch of forces in order to battle all the forces that were arrayed against him. And he chose to have Krishna as his charioteer. And I remember one of the things that Krishna said to him was, um, because he's got, friends and family arrayed against him. And Krishna, I can't remember exactly how Krishna talks about it, but it's basically he gives he says to Arjun that it's okay for him to fight them. And I know that there's one interpretation of all this where it's not about physical battle, but it's about the internal battle. Um, But that's another one where there's these sort of two poles going on of and 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 what I end up wondering about is where might I want to fall between those various poles?
Tricky question. And you know, the answer is going to depend on how old you are.
Explain, please, Mushtaq. What does that mean?
When I was in my 20s, I was very, very active trying to change the world. I was definitely trying to be the active force. In my 40s, I tried to be the passive force. Now I'm working on being the reconciling force.
Oh, that is a great answer. Yes, I can relate to that.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Ian, the message was कर्म किए जा फल की इच्छा मत कर ऐ इंसान जैसे कर्म करेगा वैसे फल देगा भगवान. So what the God Krishna was saying, do your karma. Don't worry about the results.
Yep.
Yeah,
Leave
yeah,
the
yeah. I
results
remember.
on me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots to think
Act
about.
and do not concern yourself with the fruits of your action. Just do the work, in other words. Best advice anybody can give you. Just do the work.
I think that's about all I got on
Yeah, me
this.
too.
Yeah,
Let's
but
move into Brady Bunch mode.
yes, yep, yeah.
Oh, and here we are.
Yeah, I actually think that's a really good what Alka said was a really good way to end
Yeah.
this session. Just do the work.
Yeah. Sheree, do you have a thought? No. Well,
Yep.
I
But
appreciate
it's
you
nice to
saying
see you.
hello. Yeah, yeah. Any last thoughts before we wave goodbye? Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Thank you to all of those who have donated in recent weeks. It means so much to have your support, and it helps us keep doing what we're doing,
Yep.
having wonderful conversations just like this one. So we can wave to each other. We'll wave to everybody watching on the replay, and we will be back next week, God willing. Take care.